Good day and welcome back to Horsemanship 101 again. One of the things that I talk about a lot is basics and the importance of them, and I want to give you some examples of how basics connect to ridden work and what the basics are, because that's something I've never really talked about, is exactly what basics are. Basics are in fact groundwork, various kinds. There's a lot of different kinds of groundwork, and the importance of groundwork is paramount. It basically teaches the horse almost everything it needs to know before you ride it. Well, almost everything it needs to know to be ridden before you ride it. And just about anything you want to do after that is just an extension from the basics. Now, the basics are your groundwork, but I should probably talk about what groundwork is, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of what it is. Well, maybe I should start with what it isn't. Groundwork is not lunging your horse in circles for half an hour. That teaches absolutely nothing, doesn't do any good. In fact, if anything, it can be counterproductive. Groundwork is not chasing your horse in circles in a round pen either. I've talked about proper use of the round pen before, and chasing it around in a round pen, that's absolutely not groundwork. Doesn't teach the horse anything, doesn't do anything beneficial. If anything, it probably just gets your horse annoyed with you, and then it'll never want to go in the round pen again. Lunges, like I said, nothing beneficial there. I used to own a lunge line. I don't anymore. I think the clip off of that one got used to hold the gate shut, and the rest got thrown in the garbage. So that's what I think about lunging. Basics are groundwork. Groundwork is virtually anything you do on the ground. Now, there's a few things that, again, really aren't groundwork. A lot of people say, but I can groom my horse all over and I can pick up its feet. Those things aren't really groundwork. They're byproducts of groundwork, and the groundwork comes first. And I talked about that in another video on grooming safety, is that, grooming is something that comes way down the road after you've built a relationship with the horse and you've worked on it. The only exception to that rule would be, say, this little girl over here, when I first got her, she had a real fear of being handled by humans. I spent a lot of time grooming her, not because she needed to be groomed or I wanted to groom her or anything else, just for the sake of her getting used to being handled from head to toe, quite literally. And so there's exceptions to every rule, but things like picking up the feet. I'm not touching those feet until I've done a significant amount of groundwork, because I don't feel like getting kicked, because there's no way I'm getting out of the way of those things in time. If she decides to take a kick out of me because she's worried and nervous and wants to defend herself, I'm in big trouble. There's nothing that you can do to protect yourself, that you can get out of the way of that kick fast enough. There's a few things you can do to reduce the risk of getting kicked and such, but for the most part, things like picking up the feet, no, that's a byproduct. Once you've done your groundwork properly, stuff like that's easy. First thing you got to do, you want to go out and get your horse, you got to catch it. And I did a video on that. I talked about catching a horse. That's groundwork. Teaching that before you even get the horse up to your corral or a round pen or arena or whatever you got for working on, first thing you got to do is go catch the horse. And it has to be taught to be caught properly. Otherwise, you're going to have problems for years. Then next thing you're going to do is, you got to lead the horse up to wherever you're going to work with it. That's also groundwork. Leading your horse is groundwork, and it's important. It's very, very important to have a horse that will safely lead, because as part of leading is, teaching personal space. That stuff all goes together with the leading. It's all part of the same package. And so before you even get up to the arena, round pen, corral, or wherever you're working, you can teach the horse an awful lot of stuff before you even get there. In fact, there have been times where by the time I went out and caught the horse, led it up to where I wanted to work with it, I basically just took the halter off and let it go and called it a day, because we'd already had half the, 3/4 of an hour of education with the horse. I'd walked half a mile across the pasture with the horse, leading it, teaching it how to be led. So by the time we got up to where we were going, we'd already accomplished a significant amount of education for the day. So there's groundwork there too. You start, you go catch the horse, then you got to lead the horse, and leading also includes teaching it personal space and how to lead properly, not run you over and get you killed. It's a safety issue. That's the basics. Right from the very beginning, you're going to teach the horse things that are going to keep you alive and that are for the benefit of the horse and make your horse nice, happy, mellow, chill horse. Now, then, all these other things that you're going to teach the horse, once you got it on the lead and you got it up to where you want to work with it, are all things that you're going to use when you're riding eventually. Because presumably that's the goal, is you're going to eventually teach the horse to be ridden. That's what you want to do. So what you're going to want to do is once you've taught the horse to be caught and to lead, then you're going to teach it to move. You're going to teach it to respond to your cues. You're going to teach it to walk, trot, canter. You're going to teach it to walk. Nice, relaxed walk. Then you want to go a little faster, so you're going to pick up the speed a little, and you're going to teach her to trot. And, well, you can go to a canter too, but we're going to teach her to stop. We're going to teach her to go the other way. And these are all things you want while riding. You want a horse that's going to respond to your cues when you're riding. It's going to walk and trot and canter. It's going to steer, and it's going to stop. And you're also going to want to be able to teach it to back up too, things like that. And I'm not even going to bother doing that now. But these are all things that you want your horse to know, and they're all things that directly connect to riding too. Just like, if you want to have a horse that's soft to the reins, you want a horse that flexes. You teach that on the ground. See that? I can't even get out of the way of her head enough here. There we go. And all I'm doing is picking up the lead. That's how soft a horse you want when you're riding. You don't want to be yanking and reefing on the reins. You want one that's going to respond. You want a horse that's going to do a side pass, when you're want it to do a side pass. And I did another video where I showed her side passing towards me, which can also be very handy if you're using a mounting block, that sort of thing. All these things are basics, fundamentals that, once you've taught the horse well enough, every one of these things contribute to a good ride, all of them. And once you've achieved these things, I do a lot of liberty work, side pass over barrels, slalom through poles, free jumping, tandem lunging, 3 or 4 even, which presents problems, so I won't get into that just now. But, all this stuff, if it's taught well enough, you can do the liberty work that I do, because all I've done is the exact same thing, except without the lead on. I've taught the stuff with the lead on well enough that now, when we take the lead off, we get exactly the same thing, responding to the same cues. Now, and that's the importance of the basics, is if you get all this stuff good enough, then when you get in the saddle, everything that you do is going to just be a piece of cake. See? It's that easy. I just had to ask her to go. It was direction, speed, all that stuff. This is what you're getting. This is because I taught her the basics. It's not because we do anything fancy. There's no tricks to this kind of stuff. That's just a place I'm asking her to go. There happens to be a bar there she has to jump over. That's all. That's it. But we've taught her everything else, all the basics. We've taught her well enough to the point where we take the lead off, and guess what? We still get the exact same thing. And if you're doing liberty work, if you're doing riding of any kind, whether you're jumping, barrel racing, anything, all of it, it's exactly the same stuff. You want a horse that's going to be paying attention to what you want, is responsive to your cues, and if you get all of your basics good, by the time you get on the horse's back, it already knows how to be ridden. That one there, I started her from scratch myself, and first time I got on her, she knew how to neck rein. So it wasn't because I'm a great trainer, it's because I taught her everything that it was possible to teach her on the ground before I ever got on her back. And that's the importance of basics. If 99% of your problems that you have under saddle can be traced back to some inadequacy of the things that the horse has been taught on the ground, the things that I consider to be the basics that are, it's groundwork, but it's all basics. It's all just the stuff that the horse needs to know to be a good citizen. And it makes you happy, and it makes for a safe ride and a good day. So the benefits of groundwork is that you get to teach the horse everything it needs to know before you ride it, so that when you do ride it, it's not learning anything new. You're simply cueing it from a different place. You're on its back instead of on the ground beside it. But you're not asking the horse to do anything that it hasn't already done before. And that, that's one of the goals of groundwork, is getting the horse to learn how to do all of the same things that you're going to do when you ride it, so that when you go to ride it, it's not a surprise to the horse. You might be asking in a little bit different fashion, being that you're on its back instead of on the ground. That's the only thing it has to learn, but you're not asking the horse to do anything that it doesn't already know. And that makes things much, much safer, because the horse isn't going to get frustrated. I don't know how, and then it freaks out. And the next thing you got buck and bolt and rearing and all kinds of silliness going on that you really don't want or need, and there's absolutely no reason for. Because if the horse knows what you want before you get on its back, then you're not going to get any of that. The only thing it has to learn is the way you ask. Now, that's it. That's the only thing that horse has to learn, is, to match up the cue with the action. The actions, it already knows them, because you took the time to teach it the basics on the ground. And the basics, what I consider to be the basics, is basically everything the horse needs to know. Well, almost. There's still a couple of things you're going to have to teach it once you get on the back, but surprisingly, there's a lot of stuff that you can teach a horse from the ground long before you ride it, so that basically by the time you're horse, it already knows how to be ridden, and it's not a problem, okay? So that's basically what the basics are. It's your groundwork. It's all the things the horse needs to know to be ridden. And it's incredibly important, because there's absolutely nothing that you teach the horse on the ground that doesn't directly translate into something that you're going to use at some point in the saddle. So it's not like it's pointless. There's no purpose to it. There's no reason for doing it, because everything that I do is also a direct result of all this stuff. I just simply ask the horse to do all these things that I've taught it, which are exactly the same things you're going to teach your horse before you ride it. And I do it well enough that I can take the lead off and still get the horse to do all the same things. And then we just kind of put them together and, add a few obstacles here and there in the arena here, whether it's the jump or, some barrels or poles or, whatever it is. And we get the exact same thing, and it's nothing special. It's just the basics, just groundwork, stuff that absolutely every single horse should know. Have a good day.